Om Sarvadharmastapakastam Sarvadharmaswarupakah Acharyanam Mahacharyo Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha. Om. We are studying here Sri Ramakrishna, the Great Master, and we are in the 11th chapter. Name is the Master Sadhana of the Tantras. And we have read so many things about his sadhana and some things which are almost impossible for a man. And the idea in the Tantras, in this Virabha, is that you live among the temptations. Tantras have divided their sadhanas in three different categories: Pashubhav, Virbhav, and Divyabhav. Now, Pashubhav means man is like an animal. His instincts, his drags, pulls, desires are stronger than his will to go towards God. Though he has the will towards God, but his drag for enjoyment are stronger. So he is asked to stay totally away from anything which suggests an enjoyment and do practices, sadhana, japa, dhyan, concentration, so that he will one day rise above that. Now the Virbhav also, sadhak, also has drags of enjoyment and pull towards God. But his pull towards God is stronger than his drags of enjoyment. So he is asked to leave amongst objects of temptation. And when the mind pulls towards that temptation, he has to drag it back. That is the Virbhav. So what will happen is that he will not be affected by the temptations at all. Now the ordinary sadhak, when he practices Virbhav, may fail once or twice, but the tantras do not consider that as a failure. You go on, you will succeed, like that is their advice. Now in the case of Thakur, and Brahmani had almost finished her Virbhav sadhana. So she was expert in that. And she put Thakur into that Virbhav. Now Thakur is the Lord of the world. Thakur is God. So for him, the fitter sadhanas would have been Divyabhav. But he is doing that Virbhav. Now he is living above the drags. There are no drags in him in a way. So when he lives among the objects of temptation, his mind automatically withdraws. Like that Gita shloka of Kurmonga Niva Sarvasha. So like that his mind automatically withdraws, and withdraws with such a force that he goes into samadhi, nirvikalpa samadhi. So that is what is being described. Now there are 2, 3 sadhanas. Now there are some sadhanas for lajja, gruna, bhai, teen thakte, noy. So aversion, shame, fear should not be there. So for that Thakur has passed, that is all right. Sometimes he just fed a trace of obstruction and immediately it went away by seeing Bhairavi doing that. The mood of the divine mood came in. And these objects of temptation, one was that a Bhairavi, a beautiful woman in the prime of youth, was brought from somewhere. Thakur does not know. Bhairavi procured one and made her remove all the clothes and made her sit on the asan meant for the objects of worship. And Bhairavi asked, first worship her as the goddess herself. Now Thakur worshipped her as goddess. Then Bhairavi said, sit on her lap and do japam. Now he sat on her laps and immediately he was not ready to sit on the lap. Ready means he asked his divine mother that how I am a weak person and all that, how can I venture to do this? But when he sat on the lap, he went into samadhi. So total recoil of the mind. That was one supposedly difficult sadhana. Then second sadhana, the Bengali words are Surata Kriyarata Nara Narir Sambhogananda Dekhiya. Surata Kriya, act of sexual intercourse. Nara Nari, man and woman. Sambhogananda Dekhiya. Sambhog is sex. And the joy coming out of that sex in ordinary man and woman. To look at that with equanimity is the sadhana. Because when we look at these things, the baser element comes up. So we should conquer that. That is the idea. Even if you fail once or twice, do it again. So you will conquer that. In Thakur's case, it aroused in him the Shiva Shakti Leela. Shiva and Shakti are eternally in union. Shakti is even called Viparita Ratatura. So, that Thakur saw that Shiva Shakti, when they unite with each other, then the world is produced. So, he saw that Shiva Shakti Leela Vilas, he did not see anything else. So, there was no question of equanimity and all that. He is filled with bliss, joy, and goes into samadhi. So these were the two special sadhanas. Now, that is the last sadhana, Bhairavi says, of Tantric Virbha. 64 books on Tantra, all the sadhanas one after the other, here Bhairavi made him practice and he had finished them. And then the conclusion of this is in a different way. That naked woman and all that was in the night. Now, in the daytime, in front of everybody, he has to worship Kulagar. Kulagar is the yoni of a woman. For that, that made Bhairavi pleased with paying her some money. And she was in the Nat Mandir of the Kali temple. So here I think no, it is all right here. Open music hall of the temple in the presence of all. So that has to be worshipped, and that girl has to be saluted. So that was the last rite connected with the heroic worship. So we are reading this in para number 10, which I completed in that manner. Even as my mentor, now the attitude behind this, Thakur's special attitude during Virbhava sadhana. No question of control. He was beyond that always. So, even as my mental attitude towards all women, namely that of a child towards his mother. So in Virbhava, you are supposed to be like the husband. But Thakur is not like that. Thakur has a permanent attitude of child to the mother. Safest attitude for all sadhakas. Thakur is teaching humanity about it. And remained intact during the long period of the tantric sadhana. Because so many other attitudes could come, but did not come in Thakur. As also another point. Here we stopped yesterday. So also, I could never take a drop of wine at that time. You know, the Tantra sadhana is based upon Pancha Makar. 5 things started with Ma. Madhya, Mamsa, Meena, Mudra, Maithun. So, Madhya, wine. Why wine is taken? We have a strong hold of our personality. And so, we cannot rise above. Now, wine loosens our grip on ourselves. And we can rise above. That is the only purpose of taking wine in Tantra sadhana. Some people go on drinking. That is not Tantra sadhana. That is their own so-called enjoyment. Now, if Thakur is asked to take wine, wine is called Karana. Karana means the cause of intoxication, the cause of losing your grip over your normal consciousness, mind. And Karana also means Jagat Karana. Jagat Karana is Ishwar. Now, in Thakur's mind, everything is connected with Ishwar only. Especially the words which mean Ishwara directly. So when they say Karana, take Karana, instead of taking Karana, Thakur's mind was thrown into the awareness or bhava of God, Ishvara, the Creator. So, the mere mention of the name of Karana, wine, would inspire in me the immediate experience of the universe. Immediate word is used again and again. And I explained that immediate is not in the sense of time. No immediacy, direct vision is called immediate. The immediate experience of the universal cause. And I lost myself in it completely. So, universal cause is the cause of I also. So thinking of the universal cause or experiencing universal cause, that I also is lost in it. Similarly, now in general, he is making it general. Similarly, as soon as I heard other words of that kind, the cause of the universe would present her itself before me and I would be in samadhi. What are the other words of that kind? Oh, Bengali is slightly different. Not words of that kind. Karana, name is uttered. Or if wine is brought in front, the smell of the wine goes in. That much was sufficient for Thakur to go into cause of the world. कारणेर नाम व गंध मात्रे जगत कारणेर उपलब्धीते आत्मारा होता. Name of Karan or slight smell of Karan would throw him into the consciousness of God. So this is not generalization of that, this is about wine itself. I left my topic. When it will come again, we shall see. Madhya, Mahansa, Meena, Mudra and Maithan. Now, here, about this matter of treating every woman as mother, Thakur is telling a Puranic story about Ganesha. One story of Ganesha's filial attitude towards all women. One day, while living at Dakshineshwar, so not in the context of Tantra sadhana, but to tell how Thakur could see all women as mother, an example is given from Ganesha. One day while living at Dakshineshwar, the master made mention of his lifelong filial attitude towards all women and told us a story from the Puranas. How firmly the knowledge of filial relation with all women, without exception, was established in the heart of Ganesha, the chief of the perfected persons of divine knowledge. That is Ganesha, chief of the perfected persons of divine knowledge. Okay, Siddha Gyani Ganer Adinay. Okay. Was described in the story. Before we were told that story, we had no excess of devotion, we had no devotion. So, in language, it says we had no excess of devotion. 2. And reverence for this pot-bellied, elephant-faced God with the exudation flowing from his temples. So, Ganesha has the elephant's trunk and his stomach is very big, pot-bellied. And the gandar from the elephant's head liquid drops. So like that it is dropping from Ganesha. So this figure is looking ugly to the ordinary man, or one who has no special devotion for him. I will tell you a little story about it. In the Nagpur students' home, in the very beginning of the ashrama, students or ashrama did not have a hall. So, and in Maharashtra, Ganesh Utsav is a big thing. So the students wanted to put a Ganesha. So many of them were studying in Hislop College. And Mike Freuden was the principal. So the senior students went to him and asked him, can we use the college hall for our Ganeshotsav? Mike Freuden replied, I cannot lend my beautiful hall for your ugly deity. You understand? So the deity, for some people, those who are devoted, they think it is very beautiful. Very beautiful. And he dances and his movements are very supple, not as suggested by his body. Anyway, so this is what Saradananda Swamiji said, that we are not having special. He is a God, so some reverence, but nothing special. But this story told by Thakur changed everything. But since we heard the story from a master's holy mouth, we have the conviction that Ganesha was truly fit to be worshipped before all the gods, as indeed he is worshipped. So, before any worship, before any ritual, Ganesha is worshipped. Funny things. Now Shiva and Parvati are to be married. And for that marriage, Ganesha is to be worshipped. People ask, when Shiva and Parvati were not married, from where the Ganesha came? So the reply is that from the previous cycle, Ganesha was there. So that concept was there in their mind and they worshipped him. I will tell you something funny. Not exactly funny, but strange to some of the people. In my birthplace, there were Malayali Christians. And I do not know a particular Christian sampradaya to which they belong. And two things. Many Christian houses had a square cavity for keeping Ganesh inside the house or in the outer wall of the house. And if they are to celebrate something holy, like marriage, that marriage will be celebrated in the church. But before going to the church, they would worship Ganapati in their house and then go to the church. This shows that they were Hindus previously, that is a different thing. But this is, Ganesha is worshipped before all gods. Ganesha is worshipped before every holy thing. So Saradananda Swamiji says that hearing this story we understood, yes, really, he is superior to many gods, or he should be worshipped first. Ganesha is supposed to be the god of buddhi. Ganesha is supposed to be the god of success. Ganesha is supposed to be controlling all the evil forces. So he would keep evil forces subjugated and will succeed. That is the idea behind Ganesh. And now let us hear the story told by Thakur, which resulted in such an attitude in Saradananda Swamiji. This story is this. One day in his tender age, Ganesha, while playing, saw a cat, which he in his boyish playfulness and restlessness bed and tortured in various ways and covered with wounds, a cat in his boyhood. The cat escaped somehow with life and limb. When Ganesha became quiet and came to his mother, he saw to his surprise marks of injury in various parts of the holy person of the Devi, his mother. Very much pained to see that condition of his mother, the boy asked her the reason of it. The Devi answered in a melancholy mood, "You yourself are the cause of this sad condition of mine." More afflicted than surprised at it, the devout Ganesha said with tears in his eyes, "How strange, mother! When did I beat you? And I don't remember that this child of yours, ignorant as he is, has done any wicked action for which you have to suffer such insults at the hand of anyone." So he said he has done some fault for which somebody has taken revenge on the mother. That is what he thought. Neither he has bad nor he has done such bad action. Parvati Devi, whose gross external form is the universe, Parvati Devi herself in the gross external form is the whole universe, said, "Try to remember if you have beaten any living creature today." "Yes," said Ganesha, "I did so. I beat a cat a short time ago." Ganesha thought that the person to whom the cat belonged beat his mother that way. Ganesha's mother took the repentant boy to her bosom and consoled him, saying, "It is not so, my child. Nobody beat this body of mine, but it is I who have assumed the form of the cat. That is why you see the marks of your beating on my person. You have done so without knowing it, so don't be sorry for it. But remember henceforward that all the jivas of the world having female forms are parts of me, and those having male forms are parts of your father." So previously said that whole world is a form, external form. But selective idea is given that all female forms are Parvati, all male forms are Shiva. There are no persons or things in the world other than Shiva and Shakti. Ganesh had faith in those words and enshrined them in his heart. Enshrined them in his heart. When he reached the marriageable age, he did not consent to marry, lest he should have to marry his mother. Ganesha thus maintained continence till all his life and became Ganesha maintained continence all his life and became foremost among the persons of divine knowledge. Inasmuch as he always had the conviction in his heart that the universe was of the nature of Shiva and Shakti, Brahman and its power. So Shiva is not a separate person. Shiva means the absolute auspiciousness which is in Brahman only. So whether call it Shiva and Shakti or Brahman and its power make the same thing. And because of that, he did not marry. How he will marry his own mother? Now, in many places, Ganesha is supposed to have two wives, Riddhi and Siddhi. Now, what happens is that Riddhi and Siddhi means special powers, and Ganesha is the Lord of special powers. They are under him. So, Riddhi, Siddhi, Pati. And people give it a gross form saying Pati means husband. So many ideas are there. But here it is clearly mentioned in Thakur's story that Ganesha is a lifelong celibate, and because of that, he is the best among the knowers of Brahman. Now, in connection with this, in connection with what? Seeing Shiva and Shakti, seeing the male and female of the entire world in his father and mother, what happened to Ganesha in comparison with his brother Kartikeya. That is one story. After narrating the preceding story, the master told the following one, also indicative of the greatness of Ganesha's knowledge. The story of the circumambulation of the universe by Ganesha and Kartik. Showing once the precious garland of gems hanging from her neck to Ganesha and Kartik, Parvati Devi said to them, I will give this garland of gems to the one who will circumambulate the universe, comprising the 14 worlds. Universe means not only earth, heaven and all that below, above everything. And come back to me first. Kartik, the commander of the celestial army, Kartik is Deva Senapati. Kartik, the commander of the celestial army, having for his vehicle a peacock, smiled a smile of derision, thinking of his elder brother's fat and heavy body and pot belly, and of the small power and slow movement of the mouse, his vehicle. Ganesha's vehicle is a mouse. Kartikeya's vehicle is a peacock. Mouse his vehicle, and became cocksure that the garland had already become his, and started immediately on the circumambulation of the universe. Long after Kartik had started, the seated Ganesha left his seat calmly, and seeing with the eye of knowledge the universe consisting of Shiva and Shakti, situated in the body of Hara and Parvati. Shiva is also called Hara. Went round them with a gentle gait, worshipped them, and took his seat. Long after this, Kartik returned. Peacock, all right, but the whole universe. When pleased with the knowledge and devotion of Ganesha, Parvati Devi placed the garland of gems affectionately around his neck as a token of her grace. Here now, in the south, Tamil Nadu, this very story is there with a slight difference. Parvati Devi had a fruit, and that instead of that garland. And it is extended in south, this story, that she gave that fruit to Ganesha. And Kartik thought his parents had deceived him. And so he was full of sulking and he went away from them. He went to Tamil Nadu and sat on a hill, Murus. Now in Tamil Nadu, there is eternally one old wise lady called Avaya. So Avaya went to that hillock and asked him, why you are sulking? He said, my parents have deceived me. That Ganesha only circumambulated them and they gave him the fruit. She told him, Arre, what for small fruit? You yourself are the fruit of your parents. In Tamil Nadu, Palam ni, fruit you yourself. So that hillock where he stayed, the name is Padalni. So that is the story in Tamil Nadu. In that way he was appeased. So slight change. In the Thakur story, it is garland. Thus mentioning the greatness of Ganesha's knowledge and his filial relation with all women without exception, the master said, similarity, my attitude to women is also the same. That is why I had the vision of the maternal form of the universal cause in my wedded wife and worshipped her and bowed down her at her feet. So from worldly point of view, very strange. Husband worshipping the wife, but for him, that wife is nothing but mother. And so he worshipped her as goddess and bowed down at her feet. That is an important, even in Thakur's life, we'll come across that at the end of this Sadhak Bhava. Now he is describing, analyzing Thakur's Tantra Sadhana and his uniqueness, the uniqueness of the master in his Tantric Sadhana. We have not heard of any other sadhak in any age who, having kept intact that filial attitude towards all women, had resorted to the tantric disciplines according to the prescribed rules of the heroic mode of worship. So any other sadhaka has not kept that child-mother relation in heroic worship. In heroic worship, you are supposed to be the husband. Now Thakur is telling, even when he was actual husband to his wife, he kept the relation of mother. So other sadhakas we have not heard in any age that keeping this child-mother relation they are doing heroic mode. Prescribed rules of the heroic mode of worship. Following the heroic mode, the aspirants have all along been taking a woman companion. This has been put very mildly, cohabiting with a woman. That is the meaning. Taking a woman companion, very mild. So, according to Bengali, now taking means this, accepting like a wife, behaving like a husband-wife. Following the heroic mode, the aspirants have all along been cohabiting with a woman companion at the time of sadhana. As they do not see any aspirant to the heroic mode deviate from that practice, they mean people in general. People have got a firm conviction that the realization of the desired end of the discipline, that is, the attainment of the grace of the Divine Mother, is quite impossible if that practice is not followed. So they think in Virva, we must have the relation of a husband-wife and we should behave like that. Without that, the mother's grace would not come. No, this is wrong. Why Thakur did Tantric Sadhana? One of the causes is he removed all misconceptions from that sadhana. So Thakur showed that it is absolutely unnecessary. It is doubtless that under the influence of this conviction, people condemn the Tantra scriptures. They teach wrong thing, Vamachar, left-handed practice. That specially was the intention of the Divine Mother. Uniqueness of the Master was the intention of the Divine Mother. It is only the Master, the incarnation for this epoch, for this age. Epoch, age. This age means this age when sex has become very predominant. Lust and gold have become the gods. So, in this age, Thakur is the incarnation of the age, so that seeing him, we shall understand correctly and correct ourselves. It is only the Master, the incarnation for this age, who told us repeatedly that he never in his life cohabited with a woman, even in a dream. Many people try to practice this outside, but in dream they cohabit. Thakur said, even in a dream he has never did that. His attitude is, I am a child of the mother. Maybe a small girl or old woman, for him it is mother. And that is what he came to teach this world. That is why even after Vedantic sadhana and all that, he maintained his relation with Kali the mother to show to people that this is the best relation in spiritual life, other than the Advaita, of course. You can go by any attitude, but this is a very good attitude to show that he did like this. That the accomplishment of a hidden purpose was the intention of the Divine Mother is evident from the fact that she made the Master take up the filial attitude towards all women from the beginning and engaged him in the discipline according to the heroic mode. So, heroic mode means living in temptations. It does not mean that you have Virachar, means you become the husband and wife and must have some companion for that. You have to have a human companion and you have to, anyway. So that is not at all the original idea of the Tantra scriptures. Their idea is you live within temptations and come out of it. So Thakur's uniqueness showed us clearly that this is humbug, this is not true. We can practice Tantra sadhana without any such nonsense. We can keep, like Thakur, that women are mothers, and then we can live with them or live with other temptations and be free. What is proved by the masters attaining success without taking a woman, without cohabiting with a woman? The master said, it did not take me more than 3 days to succeed in any of the disciplines of Tantra. When I took up a particular discipline and asked the Divine Mother importunately with a glowing eagerness of heart for the realization of its result, she benignly crowned me with success in 3 days only. Brahman has to gather things, he has to be taught the worship, and he does. That means that is 3 days. It is clearly proved that the company of a woman, that the cohabiting with a woman is not an indispensable auxiliary of those practices. Inasmuch as the master became successful in those disciplines in a very short time, without cohabiting with a woman, without taking a woman. It is by being overcome by his own weak nature that an aspirant destitute of self-control acts in that way. Keeping company with women would not have been said actor that way. Because the Tantra asks us to live in temptation. Aspirant destitute of self-control cohabits with a woman. It is only by way of a concession that the Tantras teach that an aspirant who even cohabits with a woman will be established in the divine state in future as the result of his repeated practice of self-control. So that is the idea. Even if he gives this relation and cohabits, does not able to control himself even temptations, he will try and he will succeed. So in future he will gain his result. With that idea, the Tantras have allowed man to keep company of the woman and behave in any way he likes. This assurance of success to them shows only it is not a license, it is a concession. And assured of success shows only the supremely compassionate state of the scriptures, compassionate nature of the scripture. Oh, man is weak, let him indulge, but he will come out. That is their compassion. and not the obligatory character of those rites. They are not telling thee you must do this. No. So, Thakur's practice of Tantra is a unique thing as the ideal thing which can be followed by all aspirants if they want to follow Tantra. The purpose of the tantric practices. Now he is describing what these tantric practices are meant for. The common aim of all the tantric practices, it is inferred, is to accustom the aspirant through self-control and repeated efforts and perseverance to the conviction that those very objects, not only this woman, those very objects, sights, tastes, etc., Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, which tempt human beings, make them experience repeated births and deaths, and prevent them from attaining self-knowledge by realizing God, are none other than the veritable forms of God. So, a spiritual divine attitude is inserted in sadhana, dealing with everything of the world. That is the tantric idea. Taking into account the difference in the aspirant's self-control and conviction, the Tantras have dealt with three different modes of worship, namely the animal, the heroic, and the divine. And I advise them to worship God according to the first, second, or third mode, according to their capacity. In course of time, people almost completely forget that the results of the tantric practices could only be obtained if the aspirants resorted to austere self-control as the basis of those disciplines. They engage themselves in many evil practices for which the tantras themselves were held responsible by all and were ridiculed by the common run of people. So people only went in Tantra, forgot the aim realization God, and either gained some Siddha Shaktis or simply indulged. The success of the master remaining in full possession of the filial attitude towards all women throughout those practices has been of immense benefit to both the true aspirants and the tantric scriptures. True aspirants because they can follow Thakur, and tantric scriptures because people are condemning them. And Thakur has showed that if properly followed, they are useful. To the former, by pointing out to them the right way to the goal of their lives, to the latter by bringing out their real glory and firmly establishing their authenticity. So they are authentic and their glory is that they teach a particular sadhana according to the capacity of the man. Another reason why the master undertook tantric sadhana. Although the master practiced the disciplines according to the tantric mysteries for 3 or 4 years, he, it seems, did not tell any of us their consecutive order or give any one of us a detailed account of them. But in order to encourage us on the path of sadhana, he told many of us of these facts on many occasions, or according to individual needs, and made a rare few of us perform some of those practices. What Ant is doing here. Or according to individual needs, oh, that is connected with the previous thing. He told many of us all these facts on many occasions, or according to individual need, peculiar. No, no, no. This has to be connected with the coming clause and drop this word and, because or is serving the purpose. But in order to encourage us on the path of sadhana, he told many of us of these facts on many occasions. Or, according to individual needs, made a rare few of us perform some of those. This and is superfluous or wrong. The mother of the universe, it appears, made the master fully acquainted with this path at that time, because if he had not himself had the uncommon experience resulting from the tantric practices, he would not have been able to detect the mental states of the devotees of different nature who came to him in his later life and to lead them forward on the path of sadhana. So these tantras have given master power over the mastery over the minds of all people. So he could see the mind, see the mental constitution, the tendencies, and guide them accordingly. That is why he has practices Tantra Sadhana, because like the yogic vibhutis, Tantric Sadhana release the vision which directly sees the minds of the people. We have elsewhere in Guru Bhava given a little indication of how the master guided the devotees who came to him and took refuge in him along various paths of discipline. That has already been given in Guru Bhava. The reader going through them will easily understand the reasonableness of what we have said above. Therefore, it is needless to mention that here again. So, he is not discussing, because Guru Bhav and Sadhak Bhav he has separately discussed, same time period, same events. So, the Guru Bhav has been discussed. Here, our interest is in Thakur Sadhak Bhav. So, through sadhana, he has shown something. That is a different thing. And by advice, he has shown something that is in the Guru Bhav. The visions and experiences of the master at the time of the tantric sadhana, so many visions. Besides telling us in this manner of the tantric practices, the master sometimes mentioned to us many of his visions and experiences. We shall now tell the reader a few of them. A root and branch change, the master said, came over his former nature at the time of the tantric sadhana. Very different type of sadhana, opposite type of sadhana. So the inner nature completely changed, turned around. He took the remnants of the food taken by jackals and dogs. Outer behavior, when he was told that the Divine Mother sometimes assumed the form of a jackal, and that the dogs were the carriers of Bhairava. Bhairava companions of Shiva and Parvati, and their vahanas are dogs. So when he understood these two things, he regarded the remnants of food taken by those animals as pure and sacred, and partook of them as prasad without feeling the slightest hesitation. One thing. He saw himself pervaded by the fire of knowledge. Fire of knowledge. Offering heartily as oblations to the lotus feet of the Divine Mother, his body, mind, life, and all, the Master saw himself incessantly pervaded, inwardly and outwardly, by the fire of knowledge. That means protected from every other obstruction. He saw the awakening of the Kundalini. So these yoga practices and tantra practices are mixed up. I heard from somebody, from a sannyasi, student of the Bihar School of Yoga in Munger, that yoga is not only Patanjali, we have to study and practice a lot of tantric scriptures also. So they are together. The masters, though in yogic practices, these women and all that do not come at all. Not at all. But the awakening of Kundalini and so many other things are common. Dhyan is common. The master saw during this period that the Kundalini was awakened. He has described this Kundalini in detail in the Guru Bhav. And it proceeded upwards to the head. All the lotuses from the, now Thakur's experiences are very concrete. All the lotuses from the Muladhar, the basic center, to the 1,000-petal Sahasrar in the head, turned upwards and opened fully. There are lotuses there, subtle lotuses, seen by people of yogic vision only. And they are turned downwards. And when the tantric practices are done, they bloom upwards and open fully. As soon as they did so, one after another, he got strange and wonderful experiences. When the particular centers, 6 centers, 7th is Sahasra. So when they approach the center, then different level of experience. Next center, different level of experience. That is what he saw. And that is why he could understand any action of any person. Other than his Bhavamukha, he saw, for example, that a celestial luminous male figure that we have seen, Guru himself, went through the Sushumna, the canal centralis, to those lotuses, now turning upwards, and made them open by touching them with his tongue. Now turning upwards, by his tongue touching, they were turning upwards. This opening outwards, he saw, is given in the previous sentence. So here, when it touched by tongue, they turn upwards and open. His vision of the Brahma Yoni, the divine womb, from which the whole world is produced. At one time, when Swami Vivekananda sat for meditation, there appeared before him a very large, wonderful triangle of light, which he felt was living. One day he came to Dakshineshwara and told the master this. When the latter said, "Very good, you have seen the Brahma Yoni. While practicing sadhana under the Bilva tree, I also saw it." What was more? Because in Thakur's case, something more. What was more? I observed it giving birth to innumerable words every moment. That is what the Brahma Yoni is doing. We cannot see that. If our practices are right, we shall see that. So, some more special powers and so many things we shall see on Monday now. Om Sarvadharma Sthapakasvam Sarvadharma Swarupakaha Acharyanam Mahacharyo Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.